Welcome back, True Seeker. It is Wednesday, January 31st, 2024. Yes, there will be a TFR tonight. Again, if you don't know what TFR is, it's every Wednesday night, 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 Eastern, 3-hour show, always caller driven. And it does broadcast on the website, tfrlive.com for Truth Frequency Radio. And we do stream it on YouTube. And yes, again, it is on tonight. So hope to see you there. But anyhow, let's just talk about some of the things buzzing in the headlines real quick because it's always news by the numbers and we want the world to wake up to it. So, Amelia Earhart, the long lost mystery. Where did she go? Where did her plane go? They're saying they found her plane possibly in the Pacific using essentially sonar technology. They found an anomaly in the sound waves, and the shape that comes back in the sonar resembles a plane that might very well have been hers. Well, look at when Amelia Earhart was born, July 24th, right? 24/7, like 247. And again, here, the US is 247 years old. So is the Illuminati. We've been documenting the 24/7 rituals, literally 24/7 in this time period since the day the Illuminati turned 247 years old. Started with a ritual with the 76ers and Celtics in the playoffs. And of course, the Illuminati was founded in 1776, just before the United States. And we just saw it with Detroit, right? Detroit's birthday is also the 24th day of July. In the NFC Championship game, they were up 24/7. Then as the third quarter began, the TV put up on the screen that in 1957, the 49ers and Lions were in a championship game, and the 49ers led 24/7 at halftime, only to give up the lead and allow the Lions to win. Well, history was reversed. Lions up 24/7, blow the lead. And by the way, if you weren't watching my live stream on that game, before the score was 24/7, we called out why the score would likely be 24/7 at halftime. And it was because all year they've been doing 24/7 rituals. So why not throw Amelia Earhart into it? Okay, also buzzing in the news, Jamaal Bowman, the man who pulled the fire alarm the day that Mike Johnson became the Speaker of the House. Notice yesterday, this was yesterday's news. Democratic Rep Jamaal Bowman says he regrets years-old blog posts that touted 9/11 conspiracy theories. So if you read that article, you'll see that he brought up information about Building 7. Again, most Americans still don't know about Building 7, but Building 7 was the third building to fall on 9/11, and it fell about 7 hours after the larger two towers collapsed. And again, on September 11th, you had three things happen that have never happened in history on any other day, and that was a steel-framed building collapsing from fire. Tower 1 collapsed from fire, Tower 2 collapsed from fire, and so did Tower 7. The difference with Tower 7 is, again, it collapsed much later, and it wasn't hit by a plane. And it was also barely damaged, so it didn't really make sense that it would come down in a perfect demolition. Yet, if you read the mainstream articles on this, it says that all conspiracy theories about Building 7's collapse have been debunked. It doesn't elaborate on how, but that's all the media has to do is just say the phrase conspiracy theory and debunked. And, people who don't think for themselves, don't question authority, but let the authorities do the thinking for them, that's all they need to hear. And I'll remind people, buildings 1, 2, and 7 fell that day. They called it the new Pearl Harbor. Pearl Harbor, December 7th, 127. And what did we just have happen on the latest 127 date? Well, we had the thing that's escalated what's going to become the U.S. involvement in the war in Gaza. They said that 3 troops were killed at Tower 22, 322. And don't forget the founder of the Illuminati died on the 322nd day of the year in history. And don't forget that in Gematria, Bavarian Illuminati equals 127, like Scottish Rite of Freemasonry. And don't forget that George Washington did pen a letter, which is in the National Archives, about his concerns about the Illuminati taking over Freemasonry. And with regards to Freemasonry, their special number is 33. And let's never forget that 33 years before 9/11, 911 was made the national emergency dialing code. World Trade Center construction began. George W. Bush graduated from Yale Skull and Bones. 2001 A Space Odyssey came out. The New York Jets had their only Super Bowl winning season, and on and on and on. So, I'm sure Jamaal Bowman was put under pressure to make these remarks because that's what happens if you want to be in a place of power. And if you read the article, he made the blog post in 2014, so about a decade ago, which means he was pretty late to the punch if he was only figuring it out in 2014. But yeah, I mean, it's annoying how they have buzzwords that just have, they've infiltrated the minds of the masses, and when the masses hear them, they just, a switch goes off, like to just turn off the truth because it was called a conspiracy theory. And again, in recent years, a lot of things called conspiracy theories have proven to be actually what was factual, like pretty much everything put out about COVID. So anyway, and let's not forget that coronavirus was coined in 1968. Fentanyl was approved in 1968, the same year the whole 9/11 plan went into motion, 33 years before 2001. But yeah, Jamaal Bowman. Let's also not forget that he pulled the fire alarm in a Masonic ritual, which we covered the day of, at age 47, when the Masons study the 47th problem of Euclid. And actually, let's see if he's still 47 years old, because in light of them focused on Building 7, let's not forget that Building 7 was 47 floors tall, and each floor was 47,000 square feet of office space. And you can look that up. Those are all facts. And also, let's not forget that Building 7 was called the Solomon Brothers Building. Very similar to Solomon's Temple, because all of Freemasonry's secrets are in Solomon's Temple. But let's see, did they do this while Jamaal Bowman is still 47? Yeah, what do you know? He's still 47 years old. He's got the April Fool's birthday. So no wonder they're going after this guy for questioning Building 7 that was 47 floors tall while he's 47 years old. Just clicked into my mind. Okay. I see what they done there. This is on CNN's front page today. Taylor Swift is making this the most expensive Super Bowl in history. A powerful message to the NFL. Again, just everything is Taylor Swift. Taylor Swift might have change the outcome of the election. Let's not forget what happened to that poor girl at her concert, where they came out with the cause of death 40 days later, and they said she died from heat exhaustion because it was 40 degrees Celsius outside, and Brazil equals 40. And you missed my video on that. She didn't die from heat exhaustion. She died from sacrifice, which they do all the time to poor people for these chosen ones on the world stage. And look at CNN. I mean, just look at this, you guys. I mean, you wonder why people are ill-informed. Look at what CNN's so focused on, and so is all of the media. But I mean, just look at the news stories and look at how many of them are Taylor Swift today. Top story in their scroll, Taylor Swift. Second story in the scroll, Taylor Swift. Fourth story in the scroll, Taylor Swift. Fifth story in the scroll, Taylor Swift. I didn't know that somebody who made mediocre music was so important. Why don't they talk about her latest album that came out with the big purple cover on it, where the title of it's 104 in Gematria, like her name, and how important she's been to this 104th NFL season, where there's been a big focus on purple in the Super Bowl logo. And again, for all people wondering what they did with the red and purple in the Super Bowl logo this year, you had the Chiefs versus the Ravens in the AFC Championship, red versus purple, and you had the 49ers versus the Lions in the NFC Championship. Of course, the 49ers wear red. The Lions' original team, the Portsmouth Spartans, wore purple. But anyhow, they hid the purple there with the Lions. And, by the way, shout out to everybody on the Patreon. Another spotless day in the NBA. Hawks to beat the Lakers, give them the 17th road loss. Hawks equals 17. Boom. Pacers to cover the spread. They were a 7.5-point dog, lost by 5. That's a cover. Knicks to beat the Jazz, as the Jazz coach stayed on 61 wins when New York Knicks is 61. Philadelphia is 61, and he's playing in Philadelphia next. Raptors is a big dog against the Bulls to beat them, to keep the Bulls on 22 wins before Jordan's two teams face each other next. The Bulls and Charlotte, I wonder what will happen there. And then Warriors over 76ers, like we've talked about a million times over the years if you paid attention. The Warriors used to play in the 106-foot-tall Oracle Arena, and the Warriors are originally from Philadelphia. If you didn't know that, the Philadelphia Warriors won the first ever pro basketball championship. But when these teams come together, there's a number that hits all the time, 106. And I can't remember now if I think the 76ers fell to 10-6 versus the West is what it was. Either that or the Warriors became 10-6 versus the East. It was one of the two. But that was our key number yesterday for the Warriors to beat the 76ers. Just another 106. Because in Gematria, prophecy equals 106. And again, Philadelphia, mentioned in the book of prophecy, Revelation, Several of the Philadelphia sports teams have had 106 rituals, and even the Philadelphia Phillies equals 106, but that number just comes up all the time with their sports teams. We call it Prophecy City, and 106 cashes again in a Warriors-Philly matchup. And then my hometown, the Blazers, they gave away Damian Lillard on the big Jesuit day in a huge Jesuit ritual. Now the Milwaukee Bucks just got Jesuit-educated Doc Rivers, who went to Marquette in Milwaukee. And funny enough, Damian Lillard, again, you can go back and watch our video from September 27th, the day the Jesuits were recognized by Roman history, the day that Lillard went to the Bucks in the Jesuit rituals we covered then. But now it's Damian Lillard's 201st day of his age, and he makes his return to Portland, right? And what's funny is today's the 100th day of the NBA season, and Milwaukee and Portland both equal 100. Oregon's the 33rd state. Damian Lillard's 33 years old. You can see the Blazers stayed on 33 losses. We just cashed on a nice big upset with the Blazers. They stayed on 33 losses against the 76ers, the only team they ever won a championship against. Again, the Blazers won the championship in the 76-77 season over the 76ers, meaning it's always been scripted this way. It's longer than most of us have even walked the earth. But funny enough, the Bucks have a shot at their 33rd win as well with 33-year-old Lillard. And then just to top it off, Giannis, the other big star in the Bucks, it's 56 days after his birthday. Bucks equals 56. Portland, OR's 56. Damian Lillard's 56. Of course, Society of Jesus is 56. So, what a script. And again, just a reminder who runs it all. The Jesuits. And you might have heard the big quote today from the standoff between the big tech CEOs in Congress. Lindsey Graham, they keep playing the clip over and over of him saying the big tech CEOs have blood on their hands for all the young people who've died from suicide because they weren't protected by big tech from things they should be protected from, and it led to their suicide. So Lindsey Graham said they all have blood on their hands. And it's just like, Lindsey Graham deserves a society of pitchforks through him. Just don't put it near his asshole because then he'd like it. But Lindsey Graham is just a garbage piece. I can't even find the language to describe what a trash human being he is. Lindsey Graham is one of the biggest warmongers in Congress. He's championed all the lies of 9/11. He's championed every cause for more and more war and bloodshed. Right now, he's advocating for us to bomb the hell out of Iran and instigate a larger war. And then he's going to say the big tech CEOs have blood on their hands? I mean, what? And of course they do, the big tech CEOs. I mean, they've led a lot of people to the death jab. So of course they do. I'm not saying that's wrong. It's just Lindsey Graham's not the person to call it out. So, and by the way, as soon as the CNN, if you're watching CNN, and as soon as they finished covering the big tech, and don't you just hate whenever Congress has hearings? Can we stop wasting? Actually, can we just get rid of the federal government altogether? But I don't ever want to see another congressional hearing in my life because all it is just a bunch of talk. Nothing ever comes out of it. It's just pure theater. It's pure talk with nothing ever done. Not to mention the same people that run your corrupt government are the same runs that run all the big tech platforms, which are the Jesuits, which we'll make a larger point about here in a second, with Mark Zuckerberg being the focus of it today in a perfect Jesuit ritual. But as soon as it ended, as soon as CNN ended, they put up breaking news, just uploaded to social media, the beheading of a father by a son. And again, the whole thing was about the dangers of, big tech and what their platforms do to young people. And then they had a bunch of parents in the audience who were there who'd lost children to suicide or other things that had happened on social media, bullying, etc. So it was about parents and children and social media. Then as soon as it ends, CNN's breaking story is that a son just uploaded a video of chopping off his father's head or a post of it, whatever they said. I was like, I mean, God, it's just, okay. So anyway, this is also going on today, and I did put up a short video if you missed it. Mike Johnson, let's not forget, Mike Johnson equals 56, like Washington, D.C. equals 56, like Society of Jesus equals 56, like Freemasons equals 56. Today has 56 date numerology. He's the 56th Speaker of House. But look at, I mean, how annoying is it? He's sitting there with this prompt next to him that says 64 Biden actions to weaken border. Again, in Gematria, Joe Biden equals 64. Barack Hussein Obama equals 64. Maui equals 64. Obama supposedly from Hawaii. Again, Biden waited 13 days from the fires to speak in Hawaii on Hawaii's 64th birthday as a state. And again, once upon a time, Hawaii was overthrown by the Committee of 13. You know what else? Today does happen to have 13 date numerology as well. Today's got the 56 in the date numerology path. It's also got the 13. But again, I mean, if people would just take the time to learn this knowledge, they'd see that every day is a big number joke. And again, it makes 1,000,000% sense when you look at the full picture. DC, known as the Masonic City, Masonry based in Kabbalah. Gematria comes from Kabbalah, the practice of coding numbers into words. So it's all just very logical, straight line for why they're doing this. Again, Kabbalah says God created the world with numbers, letters, and words. This is how they play God every day, controlling everyone's minds, what they're thinking about, what they're focused on. Taylor Swift, Taylor Swift, Taylor Swift, Taylor Swift, the U.S. border. And again, I mean, the U.S. border has been a nonstop issue for decades, ever since NAFTA. And again, Republicans want to harp on about the border. Well, I know it was mostly Republicans who were behind NAFTA, and it was warned about long before NAFTA passed that if NAFTA passed, it was going to destroy the economies of Mexicans and South Americans. And sure enough, they would be flooding the U.S. for employment opportunities because they'd have no employment opportunities in their own country. So, I mean, this was all understood before the new world trade deal emerged. And again, all this stuff's by design. This is what they want. So, anyway, anyone pointing fingers at, oh, it's the Republicans' fault, oh, it's the Democrats' fault, that's exactly what they want you to do. These parties work together. They play both sides. They'll make you hate this party the most for this reason, this party the most for this reason. You got to choose which one you hate less, voting for the lesser of two evils. What you really got to stop doing is voting for any of them because they're all a bunch of corrupt, sold-out frauds, part of these secret societies, egomaniacs, people taking money under the table. It's all about them and their own power, pandering to audiences with their false rhetoric. Again, none of this should be supported. It should all be overthrown. Again, Thomas Jefferson, he told you, to preserve liberty, there must be a revolution. And he said it had to be bloody. That's what Thomas Jefferson said. He said, you know, I got to look up the exact quote. But he said there had to be essentially a bloody revolution every 19 years to preserve liberty. And we know why he said every 19 years now. Again, the moon's on a 19-year cycle. The thing illuminated by the sun. We know who the people are that go by the moon. We know why COVID-19 came 19 years after 9/11 and the 19 hijackers, which came 19 years after the war on drugs. So it was war on drugs, war on terror, war on germs, all 19 years apart, which were all wars on people's rights and liberties. And it's funny how all of those wars always have the greatest impact on the darkest complected and poorest communities too, because that's where mostly the troops come from. And then the darkest complected people got hit the hardest by the drug war because they were targeted. And then with the war on germs, they were told they were most susceptible to the disease and illness. But again, 19 years before the war on drugs was the war on JFK's head, which was the war on courage, and the war on, the courage. Don't speak out or you'll get your head blown off. And on. And 19 years before that was the year that the U.S. deployed the most troops to World War II, and on and on and on. But yeah, so moving on. Mike Johnson, Mr. 56. Well, here's what they did with Mark Zuckerberg today in 56 land, Washington, D.C. They had him get up and apologize, and nobody could hear it on TV because there was no mic for it, so you could just see him talking to the room. And here's how they did it, you guys. From Mark Zuckerberg's birthday. Remember, he's got the same birthday as Israel. If you've never seen the video from back in the day of Mark Zuckerberg at the tech conference in Germany, where the woman asked him to take off his hoodie. If you remember the early days of Facebook, Mark Zuckerberg went everywhere with the hoodie. But she got him to take off the hoodie, and then inside the hoodie was the Star of David, and it said around the Star of David, keeping the world open and connected. And she's like, oh, this is like some Illuminati thing. If you've never seen that clip, look it up. Mark Zuckerberg is sweating bullets. But again, it's funny it's the Star of David because he's got the same birthday as Israel. Anyhow, from May 14th, his last birthday, to today, his apology is his 263rd day of his age. And what's 263? That's the 56th prime number. And remember the flights that hit targets on 9/11, Flight 11, 175, and 77. So we were told. Those numbers all add up to 263, the 56th prime number. And, Nancy the Catholic Witch with the 26/3 birthday. A lot of things go down on March 26th, too. It's the day in history that MLK and Malcolm X met for the only time. Goes with the whole long history of Black Lives Matter, 56. Mark Zuckerberg is 39 right now. But I was going to say MLK and Malcolm X both killed at age 39, like the 39 books in the Old Testament. And again, the oldest person in the Old Testament's black, Methuselah. So that whole stolen identity thing. And then we all know what happened to MLK's son last week, synced up with LeBron's 39th birthday. LeBron, who always plays on Martin Luther King Jr. Day. Long list of bodies connected to old LeBron there. Remember him and Obama were on The Shop laughing about selling their souls to the devil. That was nice. Little HBO show run by the Jesuits. God, did you see that Stephen A. Smith was on Bill Maher on the anniversary of Kobe's death? If you missed that, he was. And Bill Maher opens the show by saying the only thing he still trusts in the world is professional sports. And I thought, oh my God, man. And Bill Maher is just the perfect example of the Jesuits, because the Jesuits are a Jewish Catholic alliance. And of course, Bill Maher's half Jewish, half Catholic. But I just thought, what an unbelievable statement. And Stephen A. goes, I know exactly what you mean. It's like, oh yeah, the last authentic thing is pro sports. It's actually the most rigged thing in the world. It's even more rigged than politics in the news. But again, it's the same cabal controlling it all. So, oh, and by the way, with Zuckerberg being 39, remember, Gematria is based on the alphabetic order forwards and backwards. So all of these things equal 33 forwards, 39 in reverse. Masonry, federal, secrecy. Meta also equals 39. And remember, meta in Hebrew is the word for death. And Mark Zuckerberg said Meta will be fully up and running by 2030, Agenda 2030. Just imagine, and remember when he presented it, a world where you can do everything in virtual reality. You can just live in your little apartment where you pay the rent to Klaus Schwab. You'll own nothing and be happy. Another Jesuit there, Klaus Schwab. And you can just live in virtual reality. You can feel like you're out in paradise, in your little slum hole. Brought to you by Klaus Schwab. So, yeah, all of this just makes me sick. I can't stand watching these politicians talk tough about. I heard one of these guys talk about how social media is undermining the integrity of this nation because it's not protecting its children. I think social media is undermining the integrity of this nation because it's controlling speech and making sure that all people ever see are either entertainment or total lies pushed by big pharma, big corporation, big military. And the truth is buried and demoralized, and anyone who speaks truth is bullied and censored and deplatformed. I think that's what's really what's really it. And nobody talked about any of that today. It was so much focused on bullying and pornography and pedophilia, which are all problems. Don't get me wrong, but those are all things really for families to take care of with their children, not for government to be intervening in. I wish I could have been one of these big tech CEOs. I would have whipped Lindsey Graham a new asshole. Well, I don't want to use that phrase with Lindsey. He'll get excited, but I would have put Lindsey Graham in his place. He deserved it the most for what he said. And whoever that person is that represents X, she's a language wizard, that one. God. Oh, man. She had me laughing the way she kept responding to things, just like she should be a politician. Okay, so yeah. I think those are the main things to cover. Let me see. It's the latest breaking Taylor Swift news. CNN says Trump is coming back to the place he hated to call home. Who cares? Another big distraction. I always love when people come here and leave comments like, they're just distracting us from the Epstein story. Like, please wake up. Epstein was nothing but a distraction. If you haven't figured that out, Epstein was nothing but a distraction. Hunter Biden is nothing but a distraction. All these things are distractions. People don't know what distractions are. Everything in the media is a distraction. They do not want you to focus on the fact that you should be overthrowing your tyrannical government, these lying propaganda networks, these evil corporations. Everything happening in the world is to distract you from pretty much those three things. God. So many clueless people who think they're totally clued in. Look at that. Now Elmo's the top headline. Look at this. The top two stories are about Elmo. God. I mean, it is a nation of children. We're on Sesame Street now. We learned some things about Sesame Street during the pandemic, didn't we? It's history, too. Elmo sparks online frenzy after asking, how is everyone doing? Oh, what could be worse? Elmo asked people online how they were doing. He got an earful. Jimmy Kimmel's the next headline, broadcasting from the Masonic Temple. It's funny, if you guys do not know the history of Jimmy Kimmel, when he first came on the scene, it was on Win Ben Stein's Money, and he was hilarious. He was like, he just roasted every contestant that came on, and it was funny. And now he's just God, it's just a joke. Now he's just a powder puff for Pfizer. It's funny what happens once they put you in the Masonic Temple. But yeah, we'll leave it there for now, True Seeker. Shout out to 13 Serpents, always with the generosity. And shout out to Amy, Crack Their Code. And if you guys aren't subbed to Crack Their Code, just like that on the screen, Crack Their Code, all one word. She's got the website, cracktheircode.org. But Amy says, Amelia Earhart presumed dead on January 5th, 1939, 201 days from her birthday, and 1 year and 187 days from the disappearance. And okay, so what Amy's pointing out about the 187 and the 191 and the 201, the Jesuit orders 201, Society of Jesus, the more formal titles 187 and 191, forwards and backwards. So, and again, just with regards to her being born on 24/7 and the country and the Illuminati being 247 years old, don't forget the Illuminati was founded by a Jesuit. Don't forget the nation's capital got moved from Philadelphia to the Jesuit stronghold, D.C., Georgetown. So, yeah, great additions as always, Amy. Appreciate it. But yeah, we'll leave it there. We'll be on Patreon in moments. Thank you to everyone who supports the Patreon. Until next time.